The envelope hit the marble floor with a soft thud, and Lena's trembling hands couldn't pick it up fast enough. Inside was a check, more money than she'd seen in her entire life, enough to save Eli, enough to change everything. She looked up at the man who'd just handed it to her, this stranger in the expensive suit, but he'd already turned away, his hotel room door clicking shut between them. Her knees buckled against the hallway wall as reality crashed over her. Her little brother would live. But that moment of pure relief lasted only seconds before the old familiar dread crept in. "Nothing is free," her Aunt Ruth's voice echoed in her mind. "Everything has a price." 48 hours earlier, Lena had been standing in this same hallway, phone pressed so hard against her ear it hurt, begging a loan officer for one more chance. "Please, I'm asking you to reconsider. My brother needs surgery. He's only 12 years old. I'll work double shifts. I'll pay whatever interest rate you—" The click of disconnection cut through her plea like a knife. She'd slid down the wall right there, not caring that her cleaning cart was blocking the hallway, not caring that guests might see the help breaking down. Eli was dying, and she was out of options. That's when the door to room 712 opened. Damien Cross stepped out, his silver-streaked hair perfectly styled, his expression unreadable. She'd scrambled to her feet, wiping her face, stammering apologies. He'd said nothing, just looked at her for a long moment, went back inside, and returned with that envelope. Now, 3 days after Eli's successful surgery, Lena sat beside his hospital bed, watching him sleep peacefully for the first time in months. The doctors said he'd make a full recovery. She should have felt nothing but joy. Instead, anxiety gnawed at her insides. She'd tried to find Damien Cross at the hotel, to thank him properly, to ask what he wanted in return, but he'd checked out the morning after giving her the money. "Nothing is free," Aunt Ruth had drilled into her since she was 8 years old, since her parents died and Ruth had taken her in, not out of love, but for the government checks that came with her. "Everyone wants something. The sooner you learn that, the less disappointed you'll be." Lena had learned. She'd learned when Ruth made her quit high school to work. She'd learned when Ruth threw her out at 18, keeping every penny Lena had saved. She'd learned when she finally scraped together enough for community college, then a full degree in economics, only to be sabotaged at every job interview by Ruth's poison-tongued references. So what did Damien Cross want? Men like him didn't just hand out life-changing money to strangers. There had to be something. It took her 2 weeks to work up the courage, 2 weeks of the debt crushing her chest every night. She'd written out a contract in her careful handwriting, offering him 5 years of unpaid labor, anything he needed, any work at all. It was all she had to give. She waited until midnight, using her hotel key card one last time. His room was dark except for the city lights filtering through the curtains. She could see him in the bed, his breathing deep and even. She'd just leave the contract on the nightstand, she told herself. He'd find it in the morning. She crept closer, the paper trembling in her hands. Then the lamp blazed on. Damien shot upright, disoriented, his eyes struggling to focus in the sudden brightness. For one terrible second, he saw only a figure looming over his bed in the darkness. "What the?" His hand was already reaching for the phone. "Security! Get out! Get out now!" "No, please, I just wanted to—" Lena backed away, the contract falling from her hands, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might burst. "I said get out!" His voice was thunder. She ran, through the door, down the hallway, her vision blurred with tears of humiliation. Behind her, she heard him shouting, heard other doors opening, heard the commotion she'd caused. She didn't stop running until she reached the staff locker room, grabbed her things, and fled into the night. The next morning, she left her resignation letter in the manager's office and never went back. 3 months of searching for work in other hotels turned up nothing. Word had spread, the girl who'd been caught in a guest's room.
the implications, the rumors, the closed doors. Her landlord evicted her when she couldn't make rent. She and Eli ended up on the streets with one bag, one umbrella, and nowhere to go. The rain came down in sheets that November afternoon. Lena held the umbrella over Eli as best she could, but they were both soaked through. He was shivering despite the jacket she'd wrapped around him. The surgery had weakened him, and he needed proper shelter, proper food, proper care. She'd failed him. "Lena?" His voice was small. "I'm cold." "I know, baby, I know." She pulled him closer, her own body shaking. "We'll figure something out. We always do."
The black Mercedes pulled up so quietly she didn't notice it until the passenger window rolled down. Her heart stopped when she saw who was inside. Damien Cross stared at her through the rain, his expression unreadable. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then he said, quietly, "Get in the car." Pride warred with desperation. Desperation won. She gathered Eli and a bag and slid into the warm, leather-scented interior. The heat was on full blast. Eli immediately curled into her side, his teeth chattering. "Where have you been?" Damien asked, his voice carefully neutral as he pulled into traffic. "Does it matter?" She couldn't look at him. "It matters to me." "Why?" The word came out harsher than she intended. "Why do you care? You don't even know me. You gave me money, I tried to repay you, you threw me out. That should have been the end of it." "Repay me?" He glanced at her sharply. "Is that what you thought you were doing? Breaking into my room in the middle of the night? I had a contract. I was going to offer you 5 years of work. I don't want your 5 years." His hands tightened on the steering wheel. "I didn't want anything. I heard you on the phone, I heard about your brother, and I helped because I could. That's it. That's the entire story." She laughed, a broken sound. "Nobody does that. Nobody just helps. I do." Something in his voice made her finally look at him. His jaw was set, his eyes fixed on the road, but there was something vulnerable in his expression, something hurt. "I lost my sister when I was 15, he said quietly. "Leukemia. My parents had money for the best doctors, the best treatment, everything. She still died. And I watched families in that hospital, good families, lose their children because they couldn't afford what we could. I swore if I ever had the chance to change that for someone, I would. No strings, no transactions, just humanity." Lena felt something crack open in her chest. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry. For your sister, for that night, for everything. I was raised by someone who taught me that kindness always has a price. I didn't know how to accept yours." They drove in silence for a while. Then Damien said, "Where were you staying before this?" "Nowhere. We've been on the streets for 2 weeks." His grip on the wheel tightened again. "Does your brother have medication? Follow-up appointments?" "We missed the last one." Shame burned in her throat. "I couldn't afford the cab fare." More silence. Then, decisively, "You'll both come stay at my house. There's plenty of room. You can work as a housekeeper if it makes you feel better about accepting help. Fair wages, and I'll make sure your brother gets proper medical care and stays in school."
Why would you do that? Because it's the right thing to do. He finally looked at her and his eyes were kind. "And maybe because I want to prove to you that decent people exist. You work for me, I pay you. We're square. No debts, no obligations beyond that. Can you accept that?" She looked down at Eli, sleeping against her side despite the conversation, exhausted from their weeks on the street. She thought about her options, about the cold nights ahead, about what would happen to him if she let pride get in the way of his survival. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay, thank you." The mansion was overwhelming. Lena had cleaned hotel rooms for rich people, but she'd never actually lived in a space like this. Her and Eli's quarters were in the East Wing. 2 bedrooms, a bathroom, more space than they'd ever had. Eli was asleep within minutes of his head hitting the pillow, the first real bed he'd had in months. She couldn't sleep, kept expecting the other shoe to drop, kept waiting for Damien to reveal what he really wanted. But days passed, and he was nothing but professional. Distant, even. He left for work early, came home late. She cleaned, she cooked, she did laundry. He paid her well. That was it. Except for the moments when their eyes would meet across a room, and something would pass between them, something neither of them knew how to name.
It was 3 weeks in when everything shifted. She was dusting the books in his study. He had thousands of them, everything from philosophy to physics, when she lost her balance on the ladder. She felt herself falling, had time to think, "This is it," and then strong hands caught her, steadied her, held her. Damien's face was inches from hers. She could see flecks of gold in his brown eyes, could feel the warmth of his breath, could hear her own heart thundering in her ears. "Careful," he said softly. "I'm always careful," her voice came out breathy. "I've noticed." His hands were still on her waist. "You're careful about everything, like you're waiting for the world to punish you for existing. Aren't you supposed to be at work?" "I came home early." He still hadn't let go. "Lena, about that night at the hotel, I'm sorry I scared you. I woke up disoriented, and I reacted badly. I should have listened." "You had every right to be angry. I shouldn't have been there." "You were trying to do what you thought was honorable. That's not something to apologize for." His thumb brushed against her side, just once, probably accidentally. The touch sent electricity through her entire body. "I've been thinking. Eli seems lonely. Would you like to take walks with me in the evenings? Both of you. The gardens are nice this time of year, even in winter."
So they did. Every evening after dinner, the 3 of them would walk the grounds. Eli would run ahead, exploring, while Lena and Damien talked. Really talked. About everything. Her dreams of working in economics, his loneliness despite his wealth, her abusive aunt, his distant parents, books they'd read, places they wanted to see, hopes they'd given up on. "You're brilliant," he told her one night, after she'd explained a complex economic theory about market elasticity. "Why are you cleaning houses?" "Because my aunt made sure no one would hire me for anything else. She gave terrible references, told people I was unstable, unreliable. After a while, no one in the business sector would touch me." His jaw clenched. "That's criminal." "That's family." She tried to smile, but it came out sad. "At least I have Eli. He's the only good thing that ever came from that house." "You're good," said Damien quietly. "You're so good, Lena. I wish you could see yourself the way I see you." She looked up at him, and the air between them shifted again, heavy, charged, dangerous. "How do you see me?" she whispered. He opened his mouth to answer when Eli came running back, chattering about a bird he'd seen, and the moment broke. But something had changed. They both felt it.
The shift became undeniable 2 weeks later. Damien was in his office on a video call, and Lena was bringing him coffee, something she'd started doing because he always forgot to eat and drink when he was working. She was about to leave when she heard him say, "I don't know what else to tell you, Marcus. The logistics don't work. We can't get the shipments to sync with the manufacturing schedule, and if we can't solve this, we lose the contract." She paused at the door, turned back. "What if you staggered the shipments?" Everyone on the video call went quiet. Damien looked at her, surprised. "What?" "Stagger the shipments. Don't try to sync them. Use a rolling schedule with buffer inventory at 3 strategic points in the supply chain. It's more expensive up front, but you eliminate the synchronization problem entirely and build in redundancy in case of delays." Dead silence. Then Marcus on the screen said, "Who the hell is that, and why isn't she running this division?" Damien was staring at her like he'd never seen her before. "Lena, can you explain that in more detail?" She did. Spent 20 minutes breaking down a solution that his entire team had been struggling with for months. When she finished, the executives on the call were scrambling to take notes.
After he hung up, Damien just looked at her. "You have a degree in economics? I told you that. You didn't tell me you're a genius." She flushed. "I'm not." "Yes, you are." He stood up, walked around the desk. "Lena, would you be willing to consult on some projects? I'll pay you separately from your housekeeping wages. Your insights could be invaluable." "I'm a maid." "You're an economist who happens to be working as a maid. There's a difference." His eyes were bright with something she was afraid to name. "Please, let me help you use your talents. Let me see what you can really do." So she did, and she was extraordinary. Within a month, she'd revolutionized two of his company's most troubled divisions. They started spending hours together in his study, her explaining theories and strategies, him implementing them with stunning success. The boundaries between employer and employee blurred. The boundaries between them blurred. Then Vivian came home. Lena heard the car first, expensive engine purring up the driveway. Then she heard Damien's voice, tense and formal. "Vivian, you're early." "Surprise, darling." The woman's voice was silk and ice. "I wrapped up the Paris negotiations ahead of schedule. Aren't you happy to see me?" Lena peered through the study window and saw her. Vivian Ashford was stunning, tall, blonde, elegant in a way that spoke of old money and older privilege. She kissed Damien's cheek. He stood stiff as a board. Eli appeared at Lena's side. "Who's that?" "His fiancée, I think." The word tasted like ash. "I don't like her," Eli said immediately. Neither did Lena, but it didn't matter what she liked. Damien wasn't hers, had never been hers. She was just the help, and she'd been foolish to forget that. Vivian made sure she never forgot again. It started subtly, a comment about dust Lena had missed, a request to redo work Lena had already done perfectly, a casual mention that the help shouldn't be in the study unless specifically called. Lena endured it silently, but she saw the way Vivian watched her, assessing, calculating, recognizing a threat. The confrontation came a week later. Lena was in the kitchen when Vivian entered, her heels clicking on the marble floor. "You're the one they found in Damien's hotel room, aren't you?" Vivian's voice was pleasant, conversational. "I had you investigated. Quite the scandal." Lena's hand stilled in the dishwater. It was a misunderstanding. "Was it? Because it seems like a pattern. You're here now, in his house, worming your way into his life, into his work." Vivian smiled, cold and perfect. "Let me be very clear. Damien is mine. He belongs to a world you can't even imagine. Our families have been connected for generations. You're a temporary distraction at best. So whatever little fantasy you're entertaining, end it now." "There's no fantasy," Lena said quietly, though her heart was breaking. "I work for him, that's all." "Good. Keep it that way." Vivian turned to leave, then paused. "Oh, and one more thing. Stop hovering around him like a lost puppy. It's pathetic. Remember your place." That night, Damien asked Lena why she hadn't joined them for dinner. "Vivian thought it would be inappropriate," she said carefully. His face darkened. "She doesn't decide that. This is my house." "It's hers too, isn't it? You're engaged." Something flickered across his expression. Pain, maybe. Regret. "It's complicated." "It doesn't seem complicated. You have a fiancée, a beautiful, accomplished fiancée from your world. Whatever this has been," she gestured between them, "it was just proximity, convenience. It doesn't mean anything." "Doesn't it?" He stepped closer. "Lena, Don't!" She backed away, panic rising. "Please don't. I can't. This isn't fair to any of us." She fled before he could respond, before she could do something stupid like beg him to choose her over the woman who actually belonged in his life.
But she couldn't stop her heart from cracking when she heard them arguing later that night. "You've changed, Damien," Vivian's voice carried through the walls. "You're distant, distracted." "Maybe I'm just seeing clearly for the first time." His voice was tired. "When did you become so cruel, Vivian? You treat the staff like dirt. You treat everyone like pieces on a chessboard." "I'm practical, unlike you playing charity case with some pathetic woman and her—" "Don't." The word cracked like a whip. "Don't finish that sentence." "Fine, but ask yourself something, darling. When are you going to stop pretending you're exactly like me? You're a cross. You were born to wealth, raised to power. This humanitarian act is charming, but it's not you." "Maybe it should be. Maybe we should both try being better people." "Better?" Vivian laughed. "Darling, we're already at the top. There is no better. There's just maintaining what we have." Lena heard footsteps, a door slamming. She curled up on her bed, tears streaming silently down her face. Vivian was right. Lena didn't belong here, didn't belong with him. She needed to remember that. The next morning, Damien told Lena he needed to talk to her. "I'm ending things with Vivian," he said bluntly. "I should have done it months ago. We're wrong for each other. We've always been wrong." Lena's heart soared and plummeted simultaneously. "Damien, you can't do that because of—" "This isn't about you, or not just about you." He ran a hand through his hair. "It's about me finally admitting that I don't want the life everyone planned for me. I don't want a marriage of convenience. I don't want—" He stopped. "I want to be happy. Is that so wrong?" "No, of course not." "I'm going to tell her tonight." But Vivian heard him on the phone with his lawyer first. Lena watched through the crack in the door as Vivian's perfect mask slipped, revealing something ugly and desperate underneath. That evening, Lena went to the market to pick up supplies. She didn't see the black van following her, didn't see the men until they grabbed her from behind, a cloth over her mouth, the world going dark. When she woke, she was in a basement somewhere, her hands tied, her head pounding. Eli saw everything. He'd followed her to the market, a habit he'd developed because he hated being separated from her. He saw the van, memorized the license plate, ran all the way home screaming for Damien. "They took her! They took Lena! It was Vivian! I heard her on the phone yesterday. She was talking to someone about making problems disappear." Damien called the police immediately, but Vivian had an airtight alibi. She'd been at a spa all day, dozens of witnesses. The van had been stolen. There was no trace of Lena. Days became weeks, weeks became months. Eli barely spoke. Damien became a ghost, obsessively following every lead, hiring private investigators, refusing to give up. Vivian played the concerned fiancée perfectly, all supportive smiles and gentle suggestions that maybe Lena had just run away. But Eli knew. Eli always knew. 6 months in, Damien was in Eli's room, trying once again to get the boy to eat something, when he noticed the journal hidden under the mattress. Lena's journal. He opened it with shaking hands. The entries detailed everything. Vivian's threats, her hiring a private investigator, her cryptic phone calls, Lena's fear that something might happen, her instructions that if anything ever did, someone should look at Vivian. Damien walked into the living room where Vivian was sipping wine and said very calmly, "Get out of my house." "Excuse me?" "I found Lena's journal. I know you're involved. I can't prove it yet, but I will.
And when I do, I'm sending you to prison. Until then, get the hell out of my house and don't ever come back." For the first time, Vivian's composure cracked. "You're throwing me out for some maid, some nobody who probably staged this whole thing for attention?" "She was worth 10 of you, 100 of you." His voice was cold as death. "You have 1 hour to pack. After that, security will escort you out." She left, but the damage was done. Lena was gone, and Damien had no idea if he'd ever see her again. 2 years later, Damien was at a tech conference in Seattle. He'd stopped hoping, stopped searching, had resigned himself to carrying the guilt forever. He was walking past a conference room when he heard a familiar voice explaining supply chain optimization. His heart stopped. He pushed through the door. On the stage, presenting to 200 people with confidence and brilliance, was Lena. She was alive. He waited until her presentation ended, until the crowd dispersed, until she was gathering her materials. Then he said softly, "Lena." She turned, dropped her laptop bag, stared at him like she was seeing a ghost. "Damien?" They stood frozen, 2 years of grief and guilt and desperate hope stretching between them. Then she was moving, and so was he, and they collided in the middle of the room, holding each other like drowning people finding shore. "You're alive," he kept saying. "God, you're alive." "I'm sorry," she sobbed into his shoulder. "I'm so sorry. I wanted to come back, but I didn't know if—" "Tell me everything, please." They went to her hotel room, and she explained it all. How Vivian's hired men had kept her in that basement for 3 months before moving her to a cabin in Montana. How she'd been there for 9 more months before Eli, brilliant, persistent Eli, had tracked down the phone number he'd overheard the day of the kidnapping. How he'd given it to police. How they'd traced it. How she'd been rescued. "Why didn't you come back then?" Damien's voice broke. "Because I was ashamed. Because I'd brought danger to your home. Because Eli told me you'd broken up with Vivian, and I thought maybe you'd done it because of me, and I didn't want to be the reason your life fell apart." She was crying openly now. "I thought you'd be better off without me." "Better off?" He laughed, hollow and hurt. "Lena, I've spent 2 years barely functioning. Eli stopped talking to anyone but counselors. The house felt like a tomb. Nothing was better. Nothing has been right since you disappeared." "How is he, Eli?" "Traumatized, angry. He's been staying with my cousin while I travel for work. He needs you." "I need him too." She wiped her eyes. "I got a job at a consulting firm after I recovered. Started rebuilding, but there hasn't been a day I haven't thought about you both." They talked through the night, about everything, about nothing, making up for 2 years of silence. As dawn broke, Damien said, "Come work for me, not as a maid, as a director, head of strategic operations. You'd be brilliant at it." "Damien, I'm not asking because of what's between us. I'm asking because you're the smartest person I know, because my company needs you, because I think you could change the entire industry if given the chance." He took her hand. "Come back. Not to me. Not yet. Just come back. Let's see what happens." She looked at their joined hands and whispered, "Okay." 3 months later, Lena was transforming Damien's company. Her innovations saved them millions and revolutionized their entire approach to logistics. The board loved her. The employees respected her. She was finally using her talents the way she'd always dreamed. Then Vivian struck again. She'd been watching from afar, her rage festering. She reached out to Aunt Ruth and Ruth's partner, Paul, who'd been embezzling the survivor benefits meant for Eli for years. Together, they hatched a plan to frame Lena for corporate espionage. But they didn't know about Eli, the boy who'd spent a year finding his sister, the boy who'd learned to be vigilant, to document everything, to trust his instincts. He'd been watching Ruth, had been recording her calls, had been collecting evidence of the embezzlement. When Vivian, Ruth, and Paul made their move, planting documents in Lena's office, preparing to make an anonymous tip to the board, Eli went to Damien with everything. Hours of recorded conversations, financial records showing the stolen benefits, photos of Vivian meeting with Ruth, text messages discussing the frame job, everything. The board meeting where Vivian planned to expose Lena became her own downfall. Police arrived before she could speak. She was arrested for kidnapping, conspiracy, and attempted fraud. Ruth and Paul were arrested for embezzlement and child endangerment. As Vivian was led away in handcuffs, her perfect mask finally shattered completely. "She's nothing," she screamed at Damien. "She's nobody. How could you choose her over me?" "Because she's everything," Damien said quietly, "and you never understood what that meant."
Later that night, Damien found Lena on the garden terrace where they'd walked so many times before. "It's over," he said softly. "Is it?" She looked up at the stars. "I keep waiting for the next disaster, the next price to pay." "There is no price. There never was." He moved closer. "I never wanted anything from you, Lena, except maybe permission to love you, if you'll let me." She turned to him, tears streaming down her face. "I've loved you since the moment you caught me falling off that ladder, maybe even before. I just didn't think I deserved it." "We both deserve it. We deserve happiness, don't we?" "Yeah," she whispered. "I think maybe we do." He kissed her then, soft and sweet and full of promise. Behind them, through the window, they could see Eli watching and grinning. 6 months later, Lena stood in Damien's office, their office now as co-CEOs, looking at the company's new charitable foundation. They were providing scholarships for kids like her, kids from bad situations who deserved a chance. Eli was thriving at a prestigious school, finally safe and happy. He'd grown 3 inches and smiled every day. And Lena wore a ring on her left hand that caught the light every time she moved.
"Mrs. Cross," Damien said from the doorway, "ready to change the world?" She looked at her husband, thought about the girl who'd been sobbing in a hotel hallway, convinced she was worthless, and smiled. "I thought I already did." He crossed the room and pulled her close. "We're just getting started." And for the first time in her life, Lena believed that good things didn't come with hidden prices, that kindness could be genuine, that love could be free. Some debts, she'd learned, were never owed at all. They were just gifts, freely given, freely received, the way they always should have been. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more incredible stories of love, redemption, and second chances. Share this with someone who believes in the power of kindness and the beauty of unexpected love. What did you think of Lena and Damien's journey? Drop a comment below. We read every single one. And if you want more stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat, check out our playlist. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.